Welcome, students, to the next part of Chapter 1. We just went over the three domains: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Now we're going to get into the next level of taxonomy, which is called kingdoms. For kingdoms, though, we are only going to focus on eukarya. Remember that eukarya are unique compared to bacteria and archaea because the eukarya are made of solely eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are cells that contain a nucleus, a structure that holds the DNA, or the instructions of how to make a cell. So all these kingdoms within eukarya are made up of organisms that possess eukaryotic cells. Some are unicellular, meaning they're one cell, and some are multicellular, meaning they're made up of multiple cells. Now, just like we went over in the last page, for these kingdoms, know their characteristics and how they're different from one another. For the kingdoms of Eukarya, there are four we're going to talk about: Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. What we're going to do is go from bottom up, and you'll see why at the end. First off, animalia. Animalia, just like the name suggests, encompasses all animals within the world: insects, fish, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and mammals are all within animalia. There are two characteristics that make animalia unique. One is they're multicellular. Every single organism within animalia is multicellular, meaning it's made up of multiple cells. Remember, multi means multiple. They're also what's called heterotrophic. If you remember from the reading assignment, heterotrophic means that these organisms have to gather food. They cannot produce their own food. So, for example, us humans, we are part of animalia. We are animals. We are multicellular. We are made up of multiple cells, trillions and trillions of cells. We are also heterotrophic. We cannot produce our own food. We have to eat in order to get energy. We have to eat food. So those are two characteristics that are unique to animalia, or that are part of animalia: multicellular and heterotrophic. Now let's go on to plantae. Plantae includes all plants in the world: trees, grass, bushes, flowers. You name any plant goes in plantae. They are similar to animalia in that they are also multicellular. All plants are made up of more than one cell. One big difference they have with animalia, though, is that they're autotrophic. Autotrophic means that these organisms within plantae can produce their own energy, can produce their own food. And they do this through a process called photosynthesis. Very briefly, we are going to go more in depth with this in Unit 2. Photosynthesis is the process of taking sunlight, taking carbon dioxide, and producing food, producing sugars like glucose. All plants have the ability to go through photosynthesis, produce food and energy. They do not need to eat, they do not need to gather, they can produce their own food. That's one thing that makes plants unique. They are all autotrophic, and I'm saying all on purpose. So far we know animalia are multicellular and heterotrophic. They have to gather food. Plantae are multicellular and autotrophic. They produce their own food. Let's talk about fungi now. Fungi, like the name suggests, is all fungus in the world: mushrooms, mold, fungus, and other related organisms like yeast. For this, notice one difference already. Most are multicellular. Not all, but most. Mushrooms, some molds, some fungus are all made up of multiple cells. But some fungus, such as yeast, is made up of one cell. So this is the first kingdom within Eukarya that can possess unicellular organisms. Make sure you know that too. It's the first kingdom here that can possess unicellular organisms, one cell organisms. They are also heterotrophic. They cannot produce their own food. All fungi have to gather food. So if we look at the examples here, some of them are growing on dead and decaying material. Mushrooms tend to do this in the soil. We have other types of mushrooms and fungus that grow on, say, dead logs. And then we have mold. Mold that grows on our food if it gets old, if it gets stale. All of these type of fungi are not making food, they are getting it from something in their surroundings. So they gather food such similar to Animalia, but in a different way. So again, to recap with these three kingdoms so far. Animalia, they are multicellular, they are heterotrophic. They have to gather food. Plantae are also multicellular, and they're autotrophic. They can produce their own food, they can produce their own energy using sunlight, using photosynthesis. And fungi, mostly multicellular. There are unicellular one cell fungi, such as yeast. And they're also heterotrophic. They have to gather food. The last kingdom within Eukarya, is Protista. Now, the reason I put this as the last kingdom to go over is because this kingdom is known as the none of the above kingdom. It's known as the kingdom where eukaryotic organisms don't belong to the other three, fungi, plantae, and animalia. So any type of eukaryotic organism that doesn't belong to the other three kingdoms automatically goes into Protista. This is why I call it the none of the above kingdom. Because of this, they have the most variety. They can be unicellular, one celled, or multicellular, multiple cells. There's some very small protista that are all just one individual cell, and there's things like kelp. Yes, kelp is protista, made of a lot of different cells, a lot of cells. Protista can also be autotrophic, autotrophs. They make their own food, or heterotrophs. They have to eat food, they have to absorb food and find it. So think about this as if it's the none of the above kingdom, they have the most variety. They can be one cell, or they can be multiple cells. They can also produce their own food, or they might have to find their own food. So again, know the differences between these three kingdoms. Animalia is multicellular and heterotrophic. This includes all animals, including us. Plantae is multicellular and autotrophic and includes all plants. Fungi are mostly multicellular. There are some unicellular organisms like yeast, and they're heterotrophic. They have to find food, and they include all types of fungus, mushrooms, mold, fungus, and other related organisms like yeast. And Protista is the none of the above category. They can be unicellular or multicellular. They can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Again, make sure you know these differences. Make sure you know each of their characteristics for the unit exam for unit number 1.